Today I'm showing a product called SpatialXL, and this demonstration relates to retail, although the product could be used in any business area. The focus of this demonstration is showing the ability of SpatialXL to do geoanalytics. In other words, we can analyze our data spatially. For the first part of this demonstration, I'm going to be working with point data in the form of customer points. When you install SpatialXL into Excel, you will see a tab at the top called SpatialXL, and here's a ribbon with features related to SpatialXL. I'm going to show the spatial area with information that I've already set up for this demonstration. As you can see from our customer points here, they've got location information associated with them, and I've plotted these to my map. And there you can see all your customers, or indeed your customer footprint, all over the country. One of the very good features of SpatialXL is that when we apply filters in Excel, it will filter the map information as well. So I can, for instance, filter on province and only look at the Eastern Cape customers, like that, or I can clear that filter and see all of my customers again. I can also filter on customized regions. For instance, I've got sales regions that are particular to my customers, and they do not follow the provincial boundaries or other area boundaries of the South African map. In this case, I'm going to filter down on the Western Gauteng region. Which is this area, and now I can further filter to City of Joburg Municipality, which are these points here. As you can see from this information, there are 4 points placed here, which are a little bit far away from our main area. This could be incorrect GPS reads, it could be a misclassification, or they could be correct, but it certainly bears some investigation. Now I'm going to apply another filter down to town level, and here are all my customers in Soweto. Just to show you the background map information, we can go right down to street level. We can also select customers in different ways. For instance, I could select a particular area to include some of these customers. And these particular selected items I can select back in Excel. So you can see here are the customers I've selected. I can now work further with the selection in Excel. I can also select by doing a circle select. Let's say around this particular point, I'd like to go about 1.5 kilometers and select all these customers, and again they can be selected in Excel, and we can do further queries with them after that point. I'm just going to clear my filter so I can see all my customers. I can also go from Excel to the map. So if I go into SpatialXL and turn on my auto select and auto zoom, I can simply click on a particular customer and it will go to that customer on the map. We can also look at a particular customer information. So if I go into my inspector and I click on one of my customers, you can see here's all the information about this customer, what account group it belongs to, and so on. We can also select this in Excel and we'll pick up this particular customer row in Excel. We can also apply theming of particular points. So I've set up some themes already in this information. So let's theme by region. So we're going to look at the themes with regards to the sales region that they fall in. And there you can see all the different regions, and then the colors on the map also change according to what sales region my customers fall into. We can change this theme to be sales volume. And here you can see particular colors of sales volume, and we also have a double indicator here because the icon sizes of these circles are also higher depending on what sales volume occurred. So if I'm going to zoom into Gauteng region here, we can get a good idea of this. So you can clearly see your very high sales volumes over here. You can also see the higher sales areas more clearly by turning off some of the categories. Now we can also use theming and filtering together. I'm going to just turn on my usual theme here and go back to see all of my customers. And now I'd like to do theming and filtering at the same time. So first I'm going to filter by area manager because I'd like to look at a particular manager's information. And now I'd like to look at his one rep and see customers that this rep visits. And now I'd like to do a theme to see what day of the week does this particular representative visit these customers. And as you can see from this picture, on a Friday, this representative likes to visit the beach. And here's the other days of the week. And on a Monday, there's a point a little bit far out here, which might be misallocated to this rep, but maybe he's got some family in the area that he likes to visit on a Monday, so he might not mind to drive out a little bit further. So a picture is really worth 1,000 words. And if you only had this information in columns and rows, you would never come to the same conclusions about this information. In this part of our geoanalytics demonstration of SpatialXL, we will deal with demographics information and how to use demographics with SpatialXL. We now have access to demographic profiles which we can use for marketing analysis. If you have any queries about the data that we will be displaying in this demonstration, please contact us and we will give you more information on this data. So with the demographic information we've got, we have different places and subplaces, all with associated populations, population density, dominant race, as well as the dominant living standard measure groups of every area. We can filter in the same way as we could filter our points, this information as well. So I can filter with any kind of filter like city areas. And you can see all these different areas that are city areas. Again, if you've classified this information into your sales boundaries, you can also filter on a customized boundary area. So for instance, I'm going to filter here on client region. And I'm going to look at my Cape Town Coast region. I can now get demographic information about these areas, like what is the total population of this area or the total households of this area. And I can also apply a further filter down to micro level. So perhaps look at my main place as being Belleville. And that is this area over here. And now I can go right down to my subplace level, to Welgemoot, and that is this single area over here. Again, by identifying I can see this area over here, and through looking at my link data, I can see what the area size is, the total population, total households, and other demographics information for this area. We can also do theming of demographics areas. So for instance, let's look at the dominant race of the country. And you can see here there's a large black population and a very large colored population. There's a lot of farm areas in here, so not all of these areas are well populated. So let's take the farms out of the equation. And this will give us a better idea of how the population is broken down. So if you look here, this gives a very different picture. And let's zoom into this area in Gauteng. And there you can see the different communities. Okay, so I'm going to clear this filter. And let's now do theming by living standard measure, with the higher numbers being a better standard of living and the lower numbers being a less good standard of living. And there you can get an idea of how the country is broken down in living standard measures. The last portion of my demonstration of SpatialXL with regards to geoanalytics is target market analysis, and there we will be showing demographics and the relationship to point data. I could do a target market analysis by filtering and theming on different information in this particular map. For instance, let's say I'm developing a market plan that works with the population where there's more than 5,000 people per subplace. So the first filter we apply is going to be in terms of total population. And there I'm going to apply a greater than 5,000 filter. And you can immediately see that certain areas are filtered out. Now we can do another filter that will focus primarily on colored and white people for this particular marketing campaign. And immediately you can see other areas also filtered out. Now we can also geographically limit this particular market campaign. So let's say we're only interested in the client region of Cape Town Coast. And then we're going to select only the groupings of the higher ones. So these areas are applicable to my market campaign. Now we can do a cross correlation to see what customers that I've got already falls into these areas, and I can direct this marketing campaign at those customers. So let's find them on my map and in Excel. So first I'm going to select these particular areas that are filtered down. And then I'm going to do a query here to select those customers. There's 96 areas selected, and I'd like to get the customers that are within those areas. And there in yellow are all the customers that's selected. I can select these in Excel, and now I know exactly who I'd like to target in this particular marketing campaign. So just to keep that information at hand, I'm just going to do a color here for the selected items. Add a column called Okay, then I'll apply a filter here by color, and I will mark out the customers that I've targeted. Now I can take my color away. Take my selections away. And basically remove my filters. So I can now get back to these customers simply by filtering on this column that I've added, and immediately my result will appear for the specific customers that I've targeted in this particular campaign. And that is how you can use SpatialXL in a specific target market campaign using demographics and your own data. Just to show you another example of theming and demographics used in target market analysis, in my subplaces, I've classified my data so that I get my best performing subplaces out, and I can actually pick my top 20 performers of different subplaces in South Africa, filter, and just to make these areas really stand out, I can load my point theme. And there's my top 20 best performing subplaces in South Africa, where most of my sales are occurring. Just as one final mention, another one of our products called SpatialXL works with drive time analysis, and I'm going to display these on the background of Bing Maps. As you can see here, these drive time analyses goes from a center point up to 500 meters, and these different areas are colored by the different meters from that particular point. So I can get different areas where I can now measure where my customers are, and if I turn on my customers you can see them behind these areas, and I can then do further queries and select these in Excel as well. So you can get particular drive time analyses to do other types of market analysis and look at other areas as well. This is the end of our demonstration. For more information, please contact us at any of these websites. Thank you very much.